Hey everyone, welcome back to Mundo Vapes. I am Raimundo. This video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got into vaping. I was a heavy smoker for about 20 years. I started when I was 19, and I got into vaping about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, 20, 30, 40, 42. Yeah, about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. I was in and out of vaping, but I started vaping seriously about 3 or 4 years ago. In 2010, 11, I was diagnosed with stage 3 brain cancer, and the doctors told me I had to quit smoking, and I had no idea how that was going to happen, because I had started with those little ciga-like things. I don't even have any of those around here, like the blue and the Eon smoke and all that stuff, and they were cute. They were easy to carry, whatever, but they pretty much taste like crap. I would not suggest any new vapors to start with that, although a lot of people do, and I did. I think back then that was one of the few things that was really available. I mean, they had the sticks, and I had that also. But yeah, I started with the blue and the Eon smoke. There might have been a couple others I can't remember off the top of my head. But they didn't help too much. I was toking on that, and I was smoking a cigarette, and a lot of times I was getting a head rush. I started at like 24 milligrams of nicotine. And on the smaller things, they're a little bit easier to take that level of nicotine, because you're not getting the big clouds or anything. So here I am. It's like 2010. Doctor tells me I need to quit smoking. I'm like, yeah, okay. And my response to that was, oh well, and why? It might give me cancer. But I also didn't want it to get worse. I endured very, very high levels of chemo and radiation, and that was so not fun. And during that time, I didn't want to smoke much anyway. I forced myself to smoke just because it was kind of like a habit. So I started with like the blue and that kind of stuff, and that really didn't work. That didn't help at all. And I ended up going to a place in Westchester County, New York, in White Plains. It was White Plains Vapes, and I went in there. I was really sick. Like I had just come from like radiation or chemo. I can't remember which one, but I was sick, and it was kind of on my way home, so I stopped there, and they got me started on like the Ego style battery, and I don't have any of those here with me, but they were like these long stick batteries, and you had to buy the tank separately, and those tanks were like 1.3, 1.6 ohm coils. They were definitely not sub ohm. And I was vaping 24 milligrams of nicotine, but that was the first time I got into something that was liquid, and something that was not disposable. Well, I had the kits for the ciga-legs, but this was the first thing that was not like a ciga-leg. It wasn't a disposable. I was able to buy juices for it. And again, that was a little bit better. I mean, I was still smoking with it. It was okay. It was a good introduction into vaping. It was definitely a lot better than those little ciga-like things. And that to me, that's a big issue, because a lot of people who might benefit from vaping, or who might actually like vaping, they'll go to like the gas station or a 7-Eleven or whatever, and they'll pick up one of these things, and they're cheap. Well, you know what? Relatively, I mean, when you look at it, in New York, they're like 10, 11 bucks, and they don't last very long. They're disposables. Like in a day, they were gone, maybe less, and they're pretty crappy overall. So sometimes there are vapors that would otherwise enjoy vaping and get a lot out of it and be able to quit smoking, but their first exposure is these cheap gas station type ciga-legs, and it turns them off. I kind of wish that those weren't available anymore, but they are, and there's not much we can do about that. So I had this stick, like the Ego style battery, and like I said, it wasn't bad. It was a good introduction. It got me into being able to start to understand a little bit about how e-liquids work and how mods work, and that sort of thing. But it wasn't strong enough. It wasn't enough for me to quit smoking. And it wasn't until I went into, and I had bought like this cheap, like, I don't know, I think Haas something or other. It was like this Haas starter mod thing, and it went up to like 30 watts. And I had bought that in like a 7-Eleven or something. It was, I was tired. I wanted to try something, and I didn't want to put out a lot of money to try it. I think it was like 40 bucks. Little did I know, like 40, 50 bucks could have gotten me something decent. But I tried that, and right away it was like, wow, I didn't have that need to smoke. The very next day, I went to the local vape shop and I got myself a decent starter kit. It was like I want to say it was like Kanger Tech Mini sub-ohm, and that started me into sub-ohm vaping, and I enjoyed that, and it did help. It definitely helped me stop smoking. I might have had like a cigarette here and there, but it was not. I didn't want a cigarette. I didn't need a cigarette, and at that point, I was able to move my nicotine level from 24 to 6. Because you really don't want to do much more over 6 milligrams on a sub-ohm tank. It would blow your lungs out. And since then, I've gone through all different types of mods and all different types of setups. And the last one was before what I have now. The last one was, I believe, I want to say it was a Smock, maybe the Alien. And that was good. I enjoyed that. And then I went into a little higher price, the Vaporfy 160, I believe it was 160. I like that mod, but it's big, it's heavy, it's bulky, it's not easy to carry around. So right now, what I'm using most often, the Smokestick V8, and this is like the Smokestick battery. It comes with the Big Baby Beast. I think I have the red version here. The smoke, and this is like. I've had it for a while, and like liquid spilled, and I don't like tanks because they tend to leak, but it looks like this with their setup, and actually it's not a bad device. They say it's a beginner's device, but I really don't see this as a beginner's device at all. And I threw my RDA on here, and a lot of times if I'm running out, I need to run out, I'll take this because it's just quick, it's easy, it's light, the battery's 3,000 milliamps, so I mean it lasts pretty long, and the flavor's good. I mean, it's not as good as if I would use a box mod or something, but it does the trick when I'm running around and I don't feel like carrying a big bulky mod. Also, I use often my Sigeli, and this is a little small one, the Sigeli J80. It goes up to 80 watts, temperature control also. This is a great little mod. I wish that the internal battery was bigger. It doesn't last very long. I mean, it depends how much you vape, obviously. If I hit it hard, I might get 3 hours out of it. If I hit it here and there throughout the day, I might get almost a full day. But the times I only hit it here and there is very rare. So there's so many different mods available and so many different hardware and liquids available that it can make your head spin a little bit. And when I got into vaping, especially after like the Ego Stick, and I moved up from that, I really started to learn about Ohm's Law and battery safety, coils, resistance levels, all that sort of stuff. And a lot of people might think, oh, all I want to do is pour liquid in a tank and smoke it, and that's fine, and at the beginning that's all I wanted to do. I mean, now I like to. I have my Battlestar RDA here. I have my Dead Rabbits on its way, and I enjoy having this is a pre-built coil that my local vape shop, Beard Plus Vapes, did for me. But I also wrap my own, and I I don't mind wicking. A lot of people, they complain, oh, wicking. It takes me literally 2 minutes in the morning to wick my RDA, and the flavor is so much better, and the hit is so much better, and the evolution of moving from like a Sigalike, which, like I said, to me, it was. I can't say it's awful and horrible because it has its place, and for some people, they really like it, and that's great. And if it helps you get off smoking, that's great. But for me, it really didn't do a whole lot. It was an introduction to vaping. I'm really glad that I kept an open mind and looked around for other things, because honestly, if that was the only thing available to me, I would have quit vaping and I would have been smoking, and it would not have helped me. But suggested to find a good vape shop in your local area, and because most of these places know what they're talking about, and not all, but most aren't trying to sell you the most expensive thing in the store and things that aren't appropriate for a beginner level. I mean, I do have friends that went into places that it was like their first time vaping, and they had them up with like some I looked it up. It's a Kanger Tech RDA type thing. It's absolutely ridiculous to suggest that to someone who's just starting. But the poor guy, he had no idea what he was doing, and he hated it. And I saw him and I said, all right, let's go, we're getting you something else. But I mean, but for the most part, most vape stores are out there to help you find something that's right for you and something that you're going to grow into. So not something necessarily that, it's good for a real beginner, but as you move on, you're not going to want to use anymore. I mean, like I said, I have stuff, and it's not here with me, but I have stuff that I've had for like 3 or 4 years. Do I use it that often? No, but every once in a while, I will pick it up and play with it or whatever. I used to be really big with the tanks. I really love the tank. Now I can't stand using a tank. It's good for convenience and all. It's good to hold e-liquid and be able to smoke as you're going. Vape as you go. But for me, it's just not. I love the RDA. The flavor alone is worth taking a couple of minutes to lube it up and liquid it up and smoke it. It doesn't really matter. I mean, like, some of these juices like this will be reviewed a little bit later. This is a Juicylicious. It's a 100 milliliter chubby gorilla bottle. This is a pain in the ass to carry. But, you can buy little unicorn bottles, 15 milliliter bottles. They're short, they're thin, they're easy to throw in your pocket if you're a female, in your purse, whatever, backpack, whatever. So it makes it a little bit easier. But the whole point, I guess, is for new vapors, don't give up. Because, in the beginning, and depending on what you're using, in the beginning it is tough, and it's not like smoking a cigarette. And a lot of people assume, oh, you know what, I'm going to do this, and it's going to be like smoking a cigarette, and everything's going to be great. And it's really not like smoking a cigarette at all. Hold on a second. It's not like smoking a cigarette at all, and it's something that you have to get used to doing. I mean, you don't smoke it like a cigarette. It doesn't hit like a cigarette. Although some of the Ego style batteries with the tanks that are like 1.8 or 2.0 resistance, they might hit a little bit more like a cigarette, and you can close the airflow off, and it'll be a little harder to hit. It won't be so airy. And for some people who are just starting out, they might really like that. And for me, that did help a lot, to have something that I could close the air hole off a little bit and I get a more like a cigarette type hit. But it's not like smoking a cigarette. And until you get used to that, it takes a little time. I mean, like I said, when I first started, I was smoking and vaping. And eventually, for me, what happened was the cigarettes tasted so awful, I didn't want to anymore. Like, I was vaping, it got to a point where I was vaping more than I was smoking. And then when I would pick up a cigarette, it would just taste awful. I used to smoke Newport Hundreds, and it would just taste awful. It didn't taste good to me anymore. And a lot of my friends that moved from cigarettes to vaping had said the same thing. That eventually, at some point, the cigarette starts to taste bad, and then eventually, hopefully, the hope is that you get off them completely. I do not buy packs of cigarettes. I do not smoke. I mean, very, very, very rarely or occasionally. If someone's around, they have a cigarette, and I might, and even then, I don't even smoke a full cigarette because I don't care for it. I would much rather vape, and it's better for you. The FDA's been trying to greatly reduce our ability to do so. They have a lot of laws out there that they're trying to, bills that are trying to make into law about what we can and can't vape, what flavors we can and can't vape. It's endless. Excuse me. As of right now, there's nothing on the table that looks like it's going to go through seriously in any way, shape, or form. But excuse me, I live in New York, so there are a lot of things on the table. But if you live in a state, and I know there are quite a few states that you can't buy more than like 20 milliliters at a time, or you can't have nicotine, or you can only get a certain amount of nicotine, and that really sucks. And I know, like, just looking online and stuff, and some of the online shops, I can't think of off the top of my head what the states are, but if you live in this state, we can't do this, we can't do that, and that's a real pain in the ass. For those of us who don't live in states that have those laws yet, contact your congressman, contact your senators, contact your local people, and let them know, you know what, absolutely not. This is not something that we want. We need to get together a little bit and band together and fight against this, because otherwise the FDA will do as they please. And you know what, the FDA already has enough control over our fucking lives. So, I guess at the end of the day, this long video, and I'm sorry for that, just says kind of like, I'm just trying to say that if you're new to vaping, that, stick with it. Find something that works for you. Get to a local vape shop, and in a vape shop that you trust. Talk to people that have been vaping for a while. They know what they're talking about. are patient and willing to work with you. Because most people are. I mean, the vaping community, pretty much everyone is really nice and pretty helpful. At least that was my experience. And keep with it, because eventually it'll stick. Hopefully it will stick. And a lot of it has to do with finding the right juices too. And I do quite a few juice reviews. I have one coming up today. I should have some vape mail tomorrow, maybe even today. There's like 5 or 6 juices coming in actually from Big Breakfast. They would like me to review their full line, so that should be coming up very shortly in the near future. But a lot of it is finding a juice that you like. I mean, I've went through a ton of juices that sounded really good, or the packaging was pretty in the vape store, and I got it home and it was just disgusting. I mean, I have bottles and bottles of crap that's just really, really not good juice. So, watching the reviewers on YouTube can really help. I know taste is subjective, and sometimes what I might like or what someone else might like might not be something that you would like, but overall, the juice reviewers on YouTube do kind of know what they're talking about. They do kind of know what is a good juice and what isn't. Just because the flavor profile might not be something that you would like doesn't mean it's not a good juice. One that comes to mind that's right here is like Naked 100 Lava Flow. I did the review on this last week, I think. It's up on my page. And it's pineapple, strawberry, and coconut. I do not like pineapple. I do not like coconut. But with that being said, it's a really great juice, and I can actually vape it. Is it my favorite? Absolutely not. Is it an excellent juice, and would I recommend it to someone who likes these flavors? Absolutely. So a lot of it has to do with finding a good juice and finding a juice that won't clog your coils, especially if you're using a tank, because some juices such as Jam Monster, which is wonderful and I love it to death. I absolutely love it, but I would never put it in a tank. With those tank coils, they're expensive, and it's got a lot of sweeteners in it. And in a day or two, your coil's dead. And if money's not an issue, or you don't mind changing out the coil and buying a shit ton of coils, that's fine. That's great. Definitely do that. But Jam Monster's great in RDA. I burn off the coils, scrub them off a little bit, re-wick it, and hey, life is good again. But it's about trying to find a juice that's really that you like and that isn't going to be damaging to your coils, or in a tank. Especially if you're just starting out, you're more than likely using a tank. It's finding stuff that, like I said, it tastes good to you, it's satisfying, and it doesn't ruin your coils, or doesn't greatly lessen the life of your coils. Because that stuff like that can really screw up a new vapor too, where they really like the juice, but they're getting like 2 days out of a coil, and now they can't afford to buy more coils because I don't know what they are in other states. In New York, you can get, depending on if it's sub-ohm, like off the top of my head, like let's say the Smock V8 Big Baby, I can find anywhere from $6 to $9 a coil. For $9 I can, for $12 I can buy a shit ton of wire and make a bunch of coils. I mean, for the RDA. But again, starting out, this is normal, and this is what kind of thing that you do. What I would suggest for people, if you're using a sub-ohm tank, I would not do anything above 70/30 VG/PG. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, VG is a lot more healthier for you, and maybe in some ways it is. But anything higher than a 70/30 in a sub-ohm tank is going to clog up your coils. 60/40 is a little bit better, but I mean, a 70/30 should be halfway decent in a sub-ohm tank. I wouldn't put it in anything that wasn't a sub-ohm tank, because your coils would be dead in like half a day. But all these little things, they work together to make sure that you have a good vaping experience and that it's a positive experience for you. So, knowing what flavors you like. Some people love fruit flavors. Some people love bakery flavors. Some people like candy flavors. Knowing what you like and what you don't like is really kind of important too. Because like I said, I bought a million juices that like they sat in a drawer, and some of them are like 2 years old. They just need to be thrown out. But a lot of stuff I also gave away to people because I didn't care for it, but they really liked it. I tend to vape. I like fruits, I like creams, and I like, I hated bakery flavors in a tank because it kind of made me nauseous. But in the RDA, I love the bakery flavors. I love the sweet flavors. So I mean, your tastes change over time too. I know a lot of people when they first start vaping, they want to vape something that tastes like a cigarette. Like maybe if you smoked a Newport, maybe a menthol tobacco. If you smoke tobacco with tobacco flavor, and that's fine. I know I started out with that. I started, you know, I think I had like a Newport flavored one, and I smoked that for a while. But a lot of them I would buy in the beginning, fruit with menthol, just because it still gave me that kind of menthol-y cigarette taste and flavor. But after a very short period of time, maybe 6 months to a year, not that short, I didn't want anything to do with anything that tastes like a cigarette. Like I don't buy anything that tastes like a cigarette. I don't want anything that tastes like a cigarette. You know, that my taste changed completely. So, you know, getting a good quality juice is really important, because that really makes or breaks whether or not you're going to continue vaping. Your hardware, of course, is important. You know, the mod or the stick or whatever it is that you're using, of course, that has to work well. But what you put in that tank or in that RDA or whatever it is you might be using, and seeing as I'm really gearing this towards new vapors, in the tank, you want to make sure it's, especially like a lot of tanks run anywhere from like 2 milliliters to like 5 milliliters or bigger. You know, if you're gonna spend a bit of time with this juice in your tank, especially in the beginning, because you're not going to vape 5 milliliters. Like this one is a 5 milliliter tank. If you're starting out, that might last you like a day or two. You know, this if I was going to use this tank, this 5 milliliters would probably be gone in 4 hours. But you know, you're putting the juice in the tank, and that is ultimately what you're going to be experiencing, what you're going to be using. And if you don't like the juice, or if the juice is not a good quality juice, then you're not going to want to vape it, and you might want to go back to smoking. So, you know, I really suggest maybe checking online for reviews online on especially YouTube. There's a lot of good reviewers. I do reviews. Fogging with the Batman does some really good reviews. Wendy Vapes, Alexandra, she's excellent. Mike Dag Vapes. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I wish if you look on my channel page, you can see all the people that I'm subscribed to. All of those reviewers I really enjoy. Ambitions Vapor, I really enjoy, and I trust them. And you know, again, just because the flavor profile might not be something that I might like doesn't mean that it's a bad juice. I just might stay away from something that, you know, like I said, this is coconut and pineapple and strawberry. I don't like coconut or pineapple, but again, I did a review on this, so I tried it. And there's certain brands, like I said, Naked 100, I highly recommend to anybody, whether you're using a tank or an RDA. Their stuff is really good. It's a high quality. It does not clog up your coils. It doesn't wreck your cotton for those of us who are using RDAs. And for people who are using tanks, it won't burn out your tank coil really quickly. It's a good, clean juice. It's a 70-30. Again, like I said, with a tank, I would not suggest using anything more than a 70-30 VGPG, just because it will clog it up and it will lessen the life of your coils. You know what? I've spoken way too much. So if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'm getting quite a few views, which I'm really, really happy about. And I've got, I think, about 35 or 36 subscribers. And, you know, I would really like to get that subscriber level up a little bit. So please tell your friends and subscribe. You know, it only takes a second to push that button. And also underneath the subscribe button or on the side, depending on what your interface looks like on your computer or your phone, there's a little bell. If you click that bell, it'll give you alerts every time I put up a new video. So again, guys, this was just not so quick, 23 minutes, wow, not so quick video on just kind of how I got into vaping, a little bit about vaping, and really trying to motivate new vapors to stay vaping. So I will be back later on today with a juice review. Again, it's going to be Juicylicious by Vaporfy. This is 3 milligrams, and I'll talk about that in the next video. It'll be up at some point today. So at any rate, as always, guys, vape 'em if you got 'em, and have a great day.